Okay, so part 2 of how things went from paranormal to something else entirely. After I saw the peaceful tennis ball green glowing lady in the back of the woods, of course I started looking out of our window every night to try to catch a glimpse of her or something else, because this wasn't the first strange thing I've seen and I'm just naturally a curious person. One night towards the end of winter, I'd say probably around February, I noticed this little tiny neon blue sparks of light that started getting brighter the longer I was staring out there. And then they would start having little trails behind them as if they were moving in slow motion, but they were moving at the same speed anything else I've ever seen fly, like a bird or whatever. So my first thought was there were no way that these could be fireflies because it was in February. They're not like alive yet. There's still snow on the ground. And fireflies are green, not blue. So I went into my living room and looked out the window to the back of the woods, and I could see these bright sparks of neon blue light, like gently lighting up, and then their light would like drag behind them, and they were flying around the treetops of all the tree branches. Just immediately thought, wow, these must be like fairies or something. I don't know. The longer I would stare out there, they would start to notice me, noticing them, and they would like start flying towards me, but they would get kind of really fast and like jumpy. And it just honestly freaked me out. So I'd run away and go into my bed, shut the door, pull the covers over my head, and try to fall asleep. But let me tell you, it was pretty freaking hard to fall asleep the first few times I saw that. Because I never ever had anything fly towards me, especially at that speed. Over the next couple nights, I kept looking up and the blue lights were there. And every time they would fly towards me, and every time I would run away knowing that they want to try to connect with me, but I just wasn't trusting. As this was happening every night, I started noticing it was only happening between midnight and 4 a.m. and it never really happened around the days around the full moon. So I finally asked my husband, hey, can I wake you up in the middle of the night to show you this? Because it's starting to make me feel kind of crazy. And he said, yeah, of course. I don't know why you haven't already. On the night I was going to wake him up, I saw this like neon green light shooting up the tree trunk and out through the tips of the branches, and just like a couple of the little blue lights flying around. And I thought, well, I've never seen that before. I had only told him about the blue lights, so I wanted to see what he said or what he could see. So I woke him up, and there it was, the neon green lights like shooting up the tree. And I was like, do you see that? And he said, yeah, there's like neon green lights like shooting up the tree. I've never seen that before. And I was like, I know. Do you see the little blue lights too? They're like flying around. And he's like, yeah, I see those too. So anyways, we went back to bed, and this went on for the next couple nights, and every night it was different. Eventually the green lights went away, and it was just the blue fairy lights, I guess. So I googled, is bioluminescence in the winter time where we live a thing, and the results basically said absolutely not. I finally went down to one of the centers on the reservation, and I spoke to a very nice woman who did administrative work there at the center, and I nervously asked her if I could tell her what I've been seeing on the property that we live on. She said, of course. I told her where we lived and what I was seeing. She immediately said, don't ever be nervous to come in here and talk to me about what you're seeing. She said, a lot of people come in here and tell me what they're seeing, and it sounds even crazier than what you're seeing. So don't ever worry about that. She told me that, as a matter of fact, that her uncle lived really close to where we lived, and he not only saw those same lights that we were seeing, but he saw other things, which I wish I would have asked her what he was seeing. She went on to tell me what we were seeing were nature spirits, and they liked sugar and they liked old pennies because the older pennies have more copper in them. And she told me to leave them somewhere outside by a tree and just let them know that we're grateful. And so I did that. And she said, if there's ever any negative spirits or energies that feel like they want to come into your house, she said, just put cedar wood over your front door, and that repels the negative spirits and they can't come into your house. We never really needed to do that. I had already done the cleansing work or whatever. So it just gave me a lot of peace talking to her about everything and knowing I wasn't the only one seeing what was going on in our neighborhood. Okay, this is getting too long again. So come back to part 3 where I actually recorded some of it. And maybe I'll try to include some of the footage in there. Thank you again for hanging in there with me this long. See you in part 3.